Alright, this will be my first ever, I'm pretty sure I've never done a video solely dedicated to boxing. I think it's been mentioned, and I'm flirting with death a little bit here because I'm expecting a message. But I was kind of bored because I haven't gone shopping yet. And I'm going to risk it. Alright, so a couple, just kind of an outline of topics. I'm going to talk about the Super 6 welterweight, or Super 6 middleweight tournament, pardon me. Talk about the upcoming cruiserweight tournament. Talk about Manny Pacquiao a little bit, and talk about the Klitschko Brothers, which I think are kind of like the big topics in boxing right now, and hence why they're going to be my kind of hodgepodge topic list. I might do more boxing videos depending on the response that this one gets, just because it's something to do. And I don't know as much about boxing as I do about mixed martial arts. I tend to think very highly of my opinion and knowledge based on mixed martial arts. It's not quite the same for boxing. So here it goes. We'll see how it goes. You'll also notice that there are certain fighters I'm going to talk about that I've never actually seen fight. And you're going to see that because I can't pronounce their names. Alright, Super 6 middleweight tournament. Been following this very closely because it's been something that has recaptured my interest in boxing. For the longest time, my interest in boxing kind of died out, largely because I became very interested in MMA back in the early 2000s, and that kind of, and then you kind of had that void where, if you were a boxing fan, you couldn't be an MMA fan. If you were an MMA fan, you couldn't be a boxing fan, which I think is bullcrap. But I'm a fan of both. I have kept up on boxing, but I haven't followed it as religiously. I started doing that again lately. And this was a big reason for it, the Super 6 tournament. Even though when I looked at it, I was very skeptical about a lot of the people that were in the tournament that I didn't particularly think should be. Like if I were designing, the Super 6 middleweight tournament, this is probably not the 6 guys I would have come up with. You only have 2 champions coming in. You had Carl Froch, who held the WBC title, Mikkel Kessler, who held the WBA title. You left out, for one, I'm a little biased here because, of course, I'm Canadian. Lucien Boutet was left out, who I think would have been a huge, huge addition to this tournament. And he's been left out repetitively since, which has, to me, been a bit of a robbery. You're also missing, while I'm not a huge, fan of this guy, Robert Stiglitz is also left out. Might have got his name wrong. Have seen him fight, but I'm not entirely certain how to say his name. You left 2 champions out, which I think is huge, to be honest. If you're going to do a tournament to determine the best in any weight class, I think you have an issue of who do you put in that. I think you have to either pick up the 4 champions or maybe the top 6 guys ranked by Ring Magazine, and they didn't do that either. I say Ring Magazine because that's about it's the best source of nonpartisan rankings that there really are in the world of boxing. They didn't do that either. So anyways, the tournament has been greatly enjoyable. Some very good fights. I fully enjoyed watching Mikkel Kessler versus Carl Froch. I did enjoy the Andre Ward Mikkel Kessler fight. It's had some somewhat crappy fights, such as the recent Carl Froch Arthur Abraham fight, which I didn't so much enjoy because it was really a domination. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about Arthur Abraham when I kind of break down the semifinal fights. But in the end, injuries were a problem, but that was that's going to be in a tournament like this. Unfortunately, only 2 fighters actually fought all 3 bouts they were supposed to fight in the tournament. That being Arthur Abraham and Carl Froch. Andre Ward kind of didn't. He fought Sakio Bika in a non-tournament bout instead of fighting Andre Durrell, because Andre Durrell had to pull out. You had Kessler pull out, of course. You had Jermaine Taylor pull out. Jermaine Taylor probably shouldn't have been in there. And you had replacements of Glenn Johnson and Alan Green, which I'm not overly impressed with either of those. But getting on to, we now have the semifinals coming up. It's going to be Carl Froch versus Glenn Johnson. Arthur Abraham versus Andre Ward. I'm interested in the Johnson-Froch fight because at this point, I'm not sure who I think is going to win. I think the Ward-Abraham fight I'm very not so interested in after watching Abraham fight Andre Durrell and then Carl Froch and he just can't deal with the speed, and he cannot counterpunch worth anything. His high guard keeps him from getting knocked out and everything, and it is hard to solve, but without the counterpunching ability, you can pretty much go in there. I mean, it was very, very apparent in the Froch fight that Froch could do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted in that fight, almost, and just with no fear of repercussion from Abraham. And you got to think that Abraham, I think, is beaten mentally before the first fight punch is even thrown. He can't have the confidence. I think easily that's a fight Andre Ward will take, probably by decision, because Abraham has that high guard. He doesn't come out from behind it to allow the knockout, but really, I mean, when you look at how badly Froch was able to do whatever he wanted, you imagine that Ward will be able to do largely the same. I have probably Ward winning the tournament, but I'm going to give it a little more thought. I might actually dedicate a part of a video to breaking down Glenn Johnson versus Carl Froch, because I am somewhat interested in that fight. Okay, let's see. I guess I'll talk about the other tournament that's coming up, of course, the Cruiserweight tournament, 200-pound tournament. A lot of flack for this tournament in some ways, but I'm very happy with how they picked their people to fight this tournament. You're looking at, for this tournament, pretty much the four major champions of the Cruiserweight division, which I think is a very good idea. You got Marco Huck, you have Steve Cunningham, you have... I've never seen these guys fight, and my Polish relatives are going to kill me. Krzysztof Włodarczyk. I don't know. And I believe, and whoever is the champion between Guillermo Jones and Steve Horelius. I'm not sure. They are talking about one of those guys being the fourth guy. And of course, they kind of co-share the WBA title. I like that. People are complaining about how Denis Lebedev is left out of the tournament. But that being said, he did lose to Huck. Even though I do fully agree that I scored that fight for Denis Lebedev, it has to be said that he lost to Huck. Huck still has the title. You can't put Lebedev in there and not put Marco Huck in there. I mean, that's kind of just how it is. If you're going to put the champions in, this is a great way of doing it. I mean, there's no controversy as to who they picked. I mean, the controversy is in that fight itself. If Lebedev had the belt, he'd probably be in here. Huck would not be. And that's all there is to it. As far as the rematch on that fight goes, just as a side bet, you know, people say Lebedev won the fight. I agree. But Huck claims to have had a broken rib from the fourth round onwards. And prior to the fourth round, I had Huck winning the fight. So I do wonder if, you know, in a rematch, would Huck take it? It's a very interesting fight because it was very close. People, again, I find boxing news sites are just painful to read sometimes because more so than MMA news sites, they seem to just be highly negative, highly opinionated, less reporting, more this is what I think, which is fine if you're doing something like I'm doing here where I'm fully stating this is my opinion. This doesn't, you know, this is not journalism, so to speak. But when you're delivering journalism, I do wonder at times if boxing journalists are maybe the worst enemy of boxing with the way they write. That's enough on that tournament. As for who might win that tournament, I'm going to back Steve Cunningham all the way. But that's all I have to say on the tournament. We'll go on to the Klitschko brothers. David Haye, of course, recently saying that he will fight the two Klitschko brothers before he retires, which is good. Likeliness is he'll fight Vladimir first. I believe the article I read said he's 85% sure that he will fight Vladimir first. It's the bigger payday, it's more belts, etc. It is the fight that we want to see a little bit more than Haye versus Vitaly Klitschko. That being said, I don't think David Haye stands much of a chance against either of them. When the fight is set, I might do a full-down breakdown on why I think that. Suffice it to say, I just don't think he's a good enough boxer. People say, of course, you know, the Klitschkos have to fight each other, but I say that doesn't solve the problem that the heavyweight division has, because that's one fight. That is one super fight. Is one moneymaker, yes. But after that fight, you got nothing. You really have nothing. The problems with the heavyweight division is not the Klitschkos. Well, it is, but it's it goes deeper than any Klitschko refusal to fight each other, if you get what I'm saying. And Vitaly does have his next fight lined up. He's fighting old Lainer Solis, a Cuban fighter who just beat Ray Austin in what was an ugly fight. Do not watch it if you have not seen it. And that will be a pretty easy fight for Vitaly, I think, setting up possibly David Haye versus Vitaly if David Haye does indeed get past Vladimir Klitschko. So that's enough of the Klitschkos. I guess remaining, we have Manny Pacquiao. Talking about Manny Pacquiao. Of course, everyone wants to see Pacquiao versus Mayweather Jr. Again, that's not really happening. And I don't see it happening because I don't think it's even necessarily the boxers. I think that if the promotion team and the camps not willing to make enough concessions on either side, I think that more goes to the Mayweather camp than the Pacquiao camp, but this has been documented to death. I'm not really going to get into it. But Manny Pacquiao going to fight Shane Mosley, it looks like. I'm not sure if that's a done deal yet or not, but it seems very likely, which disappoints me because this continual path of his of going after Mayweather leftovers, guys who, have been broken by Mayweather. Maybe not broken, but the public perception is they're broken by Mayweather. It does nothing. It's a lose-lose situation for Pacquiao. You go in there, say you dominate Mosley. He's past his prime. Mayweather broke him. These are the things that are going to be said. The win does nothing. A close fight with him damages the credibility of the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. A loss to him pretty much dooms it because, you've been beaten by a guy that Mayweather absolutely killed in the ring. What does that do for the potential bout? See, that's why I don't like this idea of going after the Mayweather guys that Mayweather's beaten, because it's a lose-lose. It doesn't hype the fight up if he wins, and it hurts the fight considerably if he loses. I would prefer to see him go and fight, honestly, anything else. I'm not gonna, there are names people are throwing around. Marquez, they want him to go up and fight Sergio Martinez. I'm not crazy on fighting Sergio Martinez higher, because I think that, again, casual fans lose a little bit of interest if Pacquiao loses to Sergio Martinez, and I think that it's a fight that is very hard for Pacquiao and doesn't really gain him much if he does win in the public's eye. I think possibly a fight with Marquez. You know what? It's a fight we kind of want to see, and it would be lovely to see it. Andre Berto is another name that comes to mind. But kind of anything but Mosley, please. Like, anything would be good. And that's my thoughts on the current situation of Manny Pacquiao. I'm going to throw another one that I didn't talk about actually at the beginning there. Bernard Hopkins versus John Pascal. Not a great fight. People complaining about the draw scoring, but the way I kind of look at it, I did have Bernard Hopkins winning the fight. That being said, if you get dropped twice very early in the fight, I'm not sure if the judges will ever be all that on your side, so I don't overly criticize the decision. I criticize that they're making him fight Chad Dawson again instead of fighting Bernard Hopkins, because he's already beaten Chad Dawson. He has not, beaten Bernard Hopkins. I would do the immediate rematch, to be quite honest. I would make that the mandatory. Camps are talking. We may see Pascal BHop down the road. I hope we do, because I would like to see one way or the other that being settled. Either Pascal takes out the legend BHop, moves on to the next stage of his career, or Bernard Hopkins becomes the oldest champion in history, puts the young lion down, sets up, just kind of that, a very good story. And anyways, I hope you enjoyed my first ever, dedicated to boxing video. Encourage comments about questions or criticisms, compliments, next times I should do what, if I do indeed do next time. Anyways, that is all. Have a good day.